My name is Joe. Ever since I can remember, I've always loved film and photography. I love recording the moments that life places me in. I love making images of whatever catches my eye. So much so that I went to school for it. I spent years growing up and learning and improving on my skills, but they say skill is like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. And if there's one thing that I'm sure about, it's that I don't want to let go of this passion. So born out of my determination, I made a list to help remember all the little pieces to all the little things that I've spent my lifetime learning. Call it a backup file. Call it a time capsule. Call it so that if I ever lose my spark or forget what I've known, I'll come back and find this. Did you know that the first ever photo was taken in 1826 by Joseph Nicephore Niepce? It's a view of his courtyard from the upstairs window in his house. It's not all that impressive, but what stands out to me is how iconic it is. The guy wasn't worried about the quality of his image, he was probably just stoked to take a photo. Chase Jarvis once said that the best camera is the one that's with you. If you have something that takes images, you're already halfway there. My first ever camera was this blue Insignia digital point and shoot that I got when I was 10 or 11, and I would use that thing to take so many videos of my action figures or pictures of the park that I'd play at. It didn't matter how many megapixels or what size the lens was on that thing or how good the autofocus was. I was just happy to be out and shooting on a camera and making things that I could look back on. The gear that you use to make your images doesn't matter. Some of my best photos that I've ever made have been taken on a $15 disposable camera. No matter what you have, the best thing that you can do is to understand the device that you're working with. There's no secret or shortcut to getting good with a camera aside from practice and time. I've learned that the basics of photography is nailing lighting and focus. In the classes that I took at college, one of the best things that I learned was the triangle of exposure. Now, I learned this in about a semester's worth of classes, practicing every day, so here is the most condensed way I can explain it. Shutter speed is how fast the image is being taken. The faster the shutter speed, the more frozen in time the image is, but also the less light that it gets, making it darker. A slower shutter speed can cause things in motion to have motion blur, and it also gives it much more light because it's taking longer to take the image. ISO is how sensitive your light sensor is, and a higher ISO can brighten an image, but you'll have to deal with more grain. A lower ISO is always optimal, but it requires more light from the actual scene. Finally, aperture is how shallow your depth of field is. A really wide open aperture lets in a lot of light and it makes the focus a lot more shallow. This can look really cinematic, but it can also make it more likely for your shot to be out of focus. A closed aperture makes an image more darker, but it will also get more things in focus, so it's a trade-off. As basic as it seems, one of my favorite cameras to use is my phone. I think a digital camera like your phone is a perfect place to start or rekindle a spark because you get a genuinely unlimited number of tries to get the image that you're going for. Take a second to tap on the screen where you want your camera to focus, and it can unlock the key to a beautiful image. The last and maybe most important thing to remember about the camera is that you can't be afraid to take your shot. One of the best examples of this is my drone. For a solid 4 months after buying this drone, I think I flew it maybe 4 times. It wasn't that I didn't like it or I thought it wasn't cool. I was terrified of crashing it. I didn't want to fly it over trees or water or in the snow. And all of these fears were genuinely holding me back. At the end of the day, the most important thing to remember is that the gear does not matter. What does matter is the content. The subjects that you shoot showcase your technique and your style. What I love about photography is that you and I can get the same exact camera and shoot the same person at the same time of day, and the results are going to be super different because of style. When I'm feeling uninspired, I'll flip through photo books of photographers or subjects that I love. Books about nature, books about people, books about landscapes. They all really help me grasp that there are fresh new ways of shooting that I didn't see before. I always try to take images of things that make me feel a certain way. I can find these in color, in light, and in shapes. Finding these elements in a scene really make your image unique because they're the things that catch your eye. Even the bad photos that we think we take still possess some sort of meaning because in some way, shape, or form, your brain made the decision to press the shutter button. Taking photos and having them in your camera roll can be really impactful, but what I've found that helps me solidify what I know is printing out my images. Seeing the physical display of your images on a wall or in a book or on a cover even has some sort of profound effect that I can't quite describe. There's a cathartic nature behind printing out my images. It's one thing to look at them on a screen and a completely other thing to feel them in your hands. That work that goes into laying out the images and designing the book helps give new purpose in your work. I sometimes struggle with imposter syndrome, and I feel like I haven't done anything noteworthy or mentionable. Picking up a book with my name on it really solidifies the impact that I've made in my years of learning. So, why does this stuff matter? What is it all for? I find meaning in the things that I capture, and I want to continue to possess this ability to look back on my life. I want to know that I experienced things and made memories. If photography ever feels like it's becoming a job, then it's time for me to reevaluate what I know. If I become disconnected and lose my passion, well, that's what this is for. A catalog of what I know. A database for the things I've learned. A magazine of all the things that made me fall in love with photography in the city where I learned it all, Winona.